Hi, my name is Tracey Sparrowhawk, and I am the candidate for the People's Party of Canada in the riding of Regina Capel in Regina, Saskatchewan. So, I just wanted to touch on something that's been in the news recently. My direct opponent in this riding is Andrew Scheer, the man who wants to be Prime Minister. And there's been a lot of news generated lately about his stance on same sex marriage and abortion. And he sort of clarified his stance on what his party will do about these issues going forward. And basically, the answer is nothing. He said that he is not going to open the abortion debate or the same sex debate, that, Canadians have moved on, he's moved on. Uh, it's going to be the status quo. Now, I'm not really concerned about the same sex marriage issue. That issue is between two consenting adults. So, personally, I don't know why the state has to be involved in marriage anyway, but whatever. That law was passed in 2005, and yes, we have moved on. I think statistically, there hasn't been a huge number of, a huge increase in marriage among same-sex couples. So, that was really nothing, a big nothing burger as well. But the abortion issue is different. This is an issue that is a matter of life and death. And it's a matter of life and death for the preborn. And I am pro life and I'm unapologetically pro life. And that is why I'm standing with the People's Party of Canada. Not because Maxime Bernier has a stance on abortion, but because he is going to allow the debate to happen. He will allow his MPs to bring forward any motion or any bill that they feel uh, is reasonable. So that's what I like about Maxime Bernier. And is there really any difference between Justin Trudeau's position and Andrew Scheer's position? Well, let's have a look, okay? Um, Justin Trudeau, when he was running for prime minister before 2015, he made anyone who wanted to run as a candidate sign a declaration saying that they would support pro-choice and pro-abortion, um, policies and stance. That was his opinion, and he was directing anyone who wanted to be part of his party to have that opinion as well. Now, Andrew Scheer, he touts himself as pro-life, and certainly a lot of the social conservatives that I know are counting on him to bring pro-life issues to the center of, bring it up again. But he even said when he was running, he was going to continue the policy of Stephen Harper, which was to not reopen the debate, but MPs were um, free to express themselves on votes of conscience. So the thing with abortion in Canada is there are no restrictions on it. And many Canadians, up to 77% of Canadians, according to a study that I read, 77% of Canadians think that there are some restrictions on abortion, and they're very surprised to find out that there are none. A woman can have an abortion uh, for any reason or no reason, right up until the day or the minute before she gives birth. This is outrageous in a Western country like Canada. We rank with North Korea and China as the only Western nation that has no restriction on abortion. And how did we get here? What determined this, and why is there a belief that it's a woman's right under our Constitution or our Charter that abortion can be available on demand? Well, abortion in Canada is governed and funded through the Health Canada Act, which specifies the conditions that and the criteria that provinces and territories can receive funding based on how they're conforming to what Health Canada requires. So the federal transfer payments cover insured health services, and this is according to a Wikipedia, which was taken from the government website. So, insured health services are those provided in hospitals, physician services, and surgical dental services if they're not otherwise covered. So, the government of Canada gives the money to the provinces as long as they're cooperating with what the government is kind of some minimal criteria that, as long as they're providing these services in hospitals and by a physician, and if it's a surgical dental service. So, the provinces ultimately decide what they do with that money, how they're going to fund it. So, when you try to tackle this issue with the government, the provincial government says it's a federal health matter because we get our money from the federal government and they tell us where we can spend it. You contact the federal government and they say no, it's we just give them the money, the provinces decide what they do with it. So they just basically punt this issue back and forth. No one wants to take responsibility for it. Now, before 1969, all abortion was illegal. And in 1969 or 1968, 69, there was a push on to legalize abortion. And the three big players in this push were the Globe and Mail, the United Church, and the Canadian Medical Association. So in 1969, abortion was legalized as long as a committee of doctors certified that continuing the pregnancy would likely endanger the woman's life or health. So the health of the mother was not clearly defined, so that was wide open to interpretation. And in 1969, after this law was passed, almost all the applications that came through that were approved by a committee of doctors, they were approved, and abortion at that time became the second most common surgical procedure in the country. So think about that. How many babies were killed during that period of time after 1969? Because the doctors, they just approved it. If the mother said somehow her health was at risk, then it was approved for no reason or for a flimsy reason. But then along came a case in 1988, which was an abortionist named Morgentaler, who was doing lots of illegal abortions all over the Canada, trying to force this into trying to legalize it more. A case went to the Supreme Court in 1988, and the justices struck down Section 251 of the Criminal Code because they found that the law was not equally applied all over Canada. So what that meant was that some provinces, some areas didn't have the three doctors or the committee of doctors to hear a woman's application for an abortion. Some of the places where did have this committee, and some of them were pretty lax and some of them were a little bit harder. So it wasn't, this part of the law was not applied equally across the country. So the justices struck down that part of the criminal code. And the funny thing is, the court did not declare that abortion was a constitutional right at that time. And in fact, they said, and this is a quote from their judgment, is that there's always been a clear recognition of a public interest in the protection of the unborn, and there is no evidence or indication of general acceptance of the concept of abortion at will in our society. So they're saying that nobody wants this. There's nobody really wants an abortion for any reason or on demand. Um, and the interpretive approach to the charter adopted by this court affords no support for the entrenchment of a constitutional right of abortion. So they're saying it right there in black and white. They are not saying that abortion is a woman's right under the Constitution. And they said, don't even interpret it that way. The court actually wanted the government to craft a bill to, make a law around abortion. And in 1989, the Mulroney government did introduce a bill that would restrict abortion only for health reasons, and there was a maximum jail sentence of 2 years for doctors who violated that law. Now, it passed in the House of Commons, but it died in the Senate. So it didn't get passed. And ever since then, there's been no government that has had the political will to do anything about this issue. And we don't really have clear numbers of how many babies have been killed by abortion, but it's probably, I think, 100,000, over 100,000 a year, roughly, from the last time stats were gathered. Now, under the Conservative government, when Harper was Prime Minister, he allowed some bills to be brought forward, but he himself did not support these bills. And he called it actually unfortunate when a bill came forward by a private member, Stephen Woodworth, and what he wanted to do was put a committee together to discuss when life begins. Because according to the criminal code, a human life doesn't begin until it's fully exited. A baby has fully exited the mother. Then they're considered a human being under the criminal code. Now that's based on 400-year-old, evidence that they had at the time. 400 years ago, there were no ultrasounds. There was no, sonogram machines or anything like that that actually showed a baby in the womb. Now we have all this technology, and in fact, the technology is so clear. It cannot be any more clear that is a human baby in the womb at every stage of development. And so, Stephen Woodworth in 2012 wanted to he brought a private member's bill forward, and Stephen Harper was not happy about that. He didn't want to reopen the debate, and he stuck to that as much as he could. Except for these private members' bills, which, he said they were voted on by an all-party committee who voted in favor of letting them proceed, but he voted against them, and he was going to do everything he could to not bring this forward again. Now, Andrew Scheer has adopted the same policy, and he's adamant that his Conservative government will not reopen abortion, but that MPs are free to vote their conscience and bring forward bills. But at the same time, he's saying that he won't allow it. Now, how can he do that? If these MPs are representing their constituents' views, and say a bunch of people in their riding come to them and they want, a petition, they have a petition, they want to this MP to put forward a bill on abortion, how can Andrew Scheer stop that? The MPs are there to represent the views of their constituents. And the MPs have an obligation, have a responsibility to bring those views up in Parliament. That's why we're voting them in, right? That's why we have elections. That's why we send these people to Ottawa, and they're working on our behalf. The government takes taxes off our paycheck to pay their salaries. So why is this happening? Why are MPs, why does Scheer on one hand say that he's not going to reopen the debate, but that the MPs have a right to be able to vote their conscience. Well, I think there's a couple reasons why he can get away with saying that, and it's all smoke and mirrors. Andrew Scheer does not want to touch this because he is trying to get into power, and he's going to say whatever he needs to say in order to get into power. And if he thinks the majority of Canadians are pro-choice and pro-abortion, he's going to say that, despite what his personal views are, despite what social conservatives have sent him there to do. And social conservatives, especially with a group called Right Now, which is a political activist group, and they're trying to get pro-life MPs elected because they think that if there's enough pro-life MPs, that A, more bills will be brought forward, and B, they'll pass because there's more, there's enough pro-life or more pro-life members that will be able to vote. But that is not going to happen the way our system works right now. And let me explain something that I just read on a website called Real Women. And this is a conservative website for conservative faith-based women. They're pro-life, pro-family, and they're very concerned about how Parliament is running. And we've seen the extreme way that Justin Trudeau has run our government. Basically, he is in control. None of his MPs have any say, and there's even been reports about that. MPs have complained that they have no voice in caucus. They are not allowed to express any views except for what the Prime Minister wants them to say. So this type of system has gone on for far too long in our country, and we need to change it. Now, Parliament has become a forum for political leaders to promote their own agenda for the advancement of their party. So they're doing party before principle. The Prime Minister has all the power, and along with his appointed paid staff and his senior bureaucrats, they're the ones making public policy decisions for the rest of us. And who cares if we like it or not? As we've seen with Justin Trudeau, changing laws and making changing criminal code laws and reducing sentences for major crimes, putting that attestation on summer jobs, summer grant applicants, all the money that he's sending to every other country, his fight against climate change, his purchase of the pipelines, everything that he's done. He has not been accountable to anybody, and none of his MPs speak out against it. So what is going on here? This started under Pierre Elliott Trudeau, actually, when he was in power. He started concentrating all the power in his office. So that way he could make the decisions and no one could go against him. And all the governments ever since then, excuse me, my phone's going off here. All the governments ever since then on both sides of the aisle have enjoyed this abuse of privilege and power. They've all participated in this. And Stephen Harper was no better. And people didn't like him for that. Like, they figured he was just concentrating all the power in his office. And maybe he once in a while let MPs speak, like in the case of when some pro-life bills got put forward. But in the end, it was him and him only, him's immediate little circle there, that were doing all the planning, all the deciding for all of us. And if we are going to be sending people to Ottawa to represent us, it's our voice that needs to be heard by them in Parliament. And Parliament is the place where they are supposed to be expressing the views of their constituents. So government is accountable to the people, and their executive are accountable through Parliament. So now MPs are denied the right to vote. according to their conscience or represent the views of their constituents, but they're required to vote in the direction of the party. So if you think, social conservatives who support Andrew Scheer, if you think for a minute he is going to allow his MPs to bring forward private members' bills, no, that's not going to happen. He's going to do the same thing. He's going to concentrate all the power in his office, and he's going to have a very short leash on his MPs. Just look at what he did with Michael Cooper, throwing him off the Justice Committee after he defended conservatism to a Muslim who claimed that the Christchurch shooter in New Zealand was a conservative, and that caused him to go and shoot up people at a mosque. Well, that was a blatant lie, because in the shooter's own manifesto, he denounced conservatism. And when Michael Cooper read the shooter's words from that manifesto, which had been, deemed, offensive and taken off Facebook. But when Michael Cooper read those words into the meeting, oh my gosh, there was an uproar over it. And the conservatives right away reacted. They kicked him, Andrew Scheer kicked him off the Justice Committee. They struck his words from the record. So now there's no record that he even said that. And he was just defending conservatism against somebody who told a lie. So there's Andrew Scheer's idea of free speech and letting his MPs represent constituents and represent conservative values. No way, no way. So at least Trudeau, we know what we're getting. We know what we're fighting against because he's been open and transparent. Scheer is not. He's like a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? He's coming in and giving the illusion that, MPs, they can vote their conscience. And he can say that because he knows that the NDP, the Liberals, and the Green Party are not going to bring forward any pro-life bills. They can vote, his MPs can vote against pro-abortion bills because that's voting their conscience. But he knows for certain those parties aren't going to bring forward any pro-life bills. So, yeah, he can say that. Oh, they're free to vote, sure. But we're not reopening the debate. That's the part you need to understand. He is not reopening the debate because he is a coward. He's a coward and he's weak. And I've seen this ever since he took over as leader of the Conservative Party. And I did not like what I was seeing there. That's why I'm with Maxime Bernier and the People's Party of Canada. And I'm so glad that Maxime Bernier is allowing his MPs to speak freely on issues that are important to them and issues that are important to our constituents. So when I'm out door knocking, yes, abortion does not come up as people's first concern or any concern. Like, people aren't even talking about this issue, which, is sad because it's important. But despite that, whatever issue is important to them, I can feel confident that I can go back and represent them in Ottawa if I'm elected, which I hope I will be elected, because that would be awesome. It would be such an amazing thing to be in Ottawa, to represent the people of our province, to bring their concerns to Ottawa, to be part of a government that wants to do government differently. Max Bernier sees this. That's why he said the Conservative Party was morally and intellectually corrupt, and he left. So he's been in politics for 15 years at the federal level, and he's seen it all. He has seen how MPs have been muzzled, how they only are being told what to do by the leader of the party and to vote the party way. And if they don't, well, they might not get that cabinet post. They might not get promoted to something. They might not get put on an important file. So, or they might lose their cabinet position. So, um, those are some of my thoughts on this issue. That number one, our government is corrupt, and we need to go back to responsible government where the MPs represent the people that have elected them to serve us. They're accountable to the people. The prime minister is just as accountable to us as all the MPs, and he needs to be stripped of all this power that he's assumed. Um, Second is abortion is an important issue. Canadians want to debate it. Otherwise, it wouldn't get so much media attention. So it's something that Canadians want to discuss, and maybe we need to have that discussion and just do the right thing, put restrictions on it, because I believe most Canadians would like to see restrictions on late term abortion. Especially when 77% of Canadians don't even realize that we have no law. And most of them, once you can see a woman's belly, you know that there's a baby in there, that is a baby, and killing it is just wrong. And no matter what stage, but in late term abortions are especially gruesome and not something Canadians want to be part of, or know that it's going on. So, and then Andrew Scheer and Justin Trudeau are the same. They're the same, two sides of the same coin. The debate is not going to be reopened, no matter if either of them get into power. And think about this scenario. Okay, so if Andrew Scheer gets into power with a majority, social conservatives who are supporting him are going to be all excited because, oh, he has a majority. He's going to do something now. No, it's not going to happen, because again, he will not allow this to come forward. It doesn't matter how many MPs he has that are pro-life. He has said specifically this will not be opened, and they will not be allowed. He will block any attempt by MPs to open this debate. So if he gets in with a minority government, forget it, because even if an MP could bring forward a bill, the other parties are going to vote against it. So he's screwed either way. Like, there's just social conservatives. If you're supporting Andrew Scheer, you're screwed either way, whether he gets in with a majority government or a minority government. Nothing is going to change. The only way things might change now is if some People's Party of Canada candidates get elected, because there is a bill, that private members bill, that two of our candidates have put forward, which I have signed, that I support if I should be privileged to be sent to Ottawa by the constituents of the Regina Qu'Appelle riding. I will support this bill, and what it will do is it will restrict abortion with up to 24 weeks, or past 24 weeks, sorry. So abortion will not be allowed after 24 weeks. And the reason they picked that time is because of, that's 6 months in, and a woman has had up to 6 months to decide if she's going to keep her baby or not. And once it gets past 24 weeks, if a baby is born at that stage, they survive outside the mother's womb. We have lots of babies who are born prematurely at 24 and 25 weeks. And I think the earliest a baby was born and survived was 21 weeks. So we have the capability to, keep a baby alive for the last 4 months of a mother's pregnancy. So that's why that's why the 24-week and up ban was chosen. Now, if People's Party candidates get in, they can present this private members bill, and they've actually put out a declaration or a website called preborn.ca where you can go and see which candidates and MPs have signed on to support this private member's bill, because a private member's bill can be brought forward by anybody. It doesn't have to be the party sponsoring it that has to bring it forward. And if any of the other MPs or candidates from any of the other parties want to sign on to support this bill, they would be free to bring it forward for debate in Parliament or for consideration. So if PPC candidates get elected, they will be bringing this forward. The ones who have supported it anyway. There's like 52 of the 330 or 300 and some candidates that have signed on to it. So there'll probably be more as time goes on. But at this point, if any one of these 52 candidates get elected and we bring forward this bill, that's something Andrew Scheer has no control over. And his MPs will be allowed to vote their conscience on it because he has said they can vote their conscience on it. So for those of you who really want to see this issue brought up again, you must look at the PPC as your best alternative to make that happen. And I'd be happy to discuss this with you. If you want, reach out to me. You can reach me. I'll leave my email in the box or in the comments section. And if you like this video, share it and subscribe. And I'll talk to you on the next video. Bye.